It's 4:15 in the morning, and I'm already being beamed at to quite severe percentages. It's becoming worse than ever before. Indeed, usually I was all right until at least 8 a.m. Previously it was 10 a.m., but now it's 4:15 in the morning and I'm already being beamed at. I'm being fried alive. This is getting to a point now where I believe we've entered a new phase of the experiment, and the targeting is increasing. Indeed, I'm half expecting to be gang stalked over the coming weeks. Indeed, networks of Masonic lodges are probably organizing something for me, whereby I will be harassed in the street. Indeed, I am ready for the challenge, as annoying as it is. I am prepared for what is to come. Indeed, when you've burned British intelligence the way I have, this is, I suppose, what you should expect. Because in their eyes, I have basically betrayed the nation. Indeed, I don't actually see it this way. Indeed, I don't see the intelligence services necessarily as representing the nation, and also I don't actually feel any loyalty to a particular nation. I feel loyalty to specific groups of people. I do not feel loyalty to the British state or the British monarchy, and most certainly I do not feel loyalty to the British intelligence services. Indeed, it was the British intelligence services who first decided that I was to become a test subject for mind control experimentation all the way back in 2012, due to their foreknowledge of me, due to my exploitation by Hellfire Club Graham in my younger years. And this singled me out for a mind control experiment conducted by MI6 networks at Grenville Lodge via the corporate front for intelligence activities that is located around Grenville Lodge, i.e. the University of Buckingham. Indeed, this is a home of the Hellfire Clubs and a ritual abuse site and a site for mind control experimentation. Indeed, I believe there had been attempts to expose Grenville Lodge in the 7 years before my tenure there, and 2 students of the University of Buckingham had died under mysterious circumstances. Indeed, I have theorized about this in my video Schizophrenic Cats on Thorazine, the Sinister Underworld of Spies and Madmen, so I'm not going to reiterate that story here, but basically it culminated in me having realized that I was undergoing some sort of mind control programming, and despite attempts by British intelligence to erase my memory, certain memories and various alters that they programmed into me were all beginning to fade into one. Indeed, I believe I may be an experimental reject because the programming didn't fully take, though at other points it did, so it's all rather interesting. But I believe I was basically programmed to be a mind-controlled operative, basically. And I began running around the town and getting up, going into pubs and getting up on tables and getting people to come over and listen to me. And then I explained about the fact that the Freemason professors at the University of Buckingham and their Masonic Hellfire Club acolytes were holding rituals under the buildings around the University of Buckingham Grenville Lodge sanctum, and that they were sacrificing people in these rituals and transplanting the souls of these dead individuals into cats. Indeed, I encountered a couple of very strange cats at Hailsham House, which was one of the halls of residence with the darkest energy. And these cats did not seem right. Indeed, they seemed like they were severely mentally ill, but that they'd been drugged with some sort of strong antipsychotic substance, thus schizophrenic cats on Thorazine. And I believe that two of these cats were the souls of the two students who had been neutralized by the Freemasons for finding out the truth about Grenville Lodge. Indeed, I surmised that I was to become the third cat and subsequently ended up in the Balkans. But it's all a rather strange saga. Indeed, there was also another occasion where I ate my SIM card. Indeed, I was wandering through the streets, and then suddenly I had a very odd synchronicity deja vu experience where I realized I've seen this moment before and something is about to happen. And a Nigerian female student from the university suddenly appeared out of a side alleyway and asked me to call her a taxi. And so I did. And then I waited with her for the taxi, and she got in the taxi and went off. And I suddenly had a thought that she was being raped and abused by the Masonic networks of the university, and that there were two taxi numbers, one which would have taken her away from the University of Buckingham rings of abuse, and one that would have taken her back. I then surmised that I had called the right number to see her free of these terrible people, and then I figured that they would trace the phone call, whoever had called the taxi, and the Masons would punish me in some way for helping this young lady. And so I proceeded to eat my SIM card. I didn't simply swallow it, I chewed it up and ate it like it was food. And basically, after that, I became convinced I was radioactive, so I started staying away from everyone. But it was all a rather interesting experience. But when under mind control programming, and mind control programming isn't entirely taking, things like that can occur. Indeed, it's all part of an ongoing project that British intelligence have, where they are mainly targeting paranoid schizophrenic individuals, and this is the MINDGATE program. And it's very similar to the MK Ultra program in the US, which has never actually ended. Indeed, despite officially having been shut down in the 60s and 70s, the MK Ultra program is continuing in the United States, just as the MINDGATE program in the United Kingdom has been going on since the late 1940s. These projects never get shut down. Indeed, there is no information about the MINDGATE program in the public domain, but I can testify that it is certainly occurring, as I am an experimental test subject of the MINDGATE program. Indeed, now that I've realized this, everything in my life makes complete sense. And I realized that for a lot of years, I was basically being picked up in the streets by agents, taken to black sites, and reprogrammed. And I was wondering why I was waking up in random places at random times of day when I wasn't actually necessarily taking lots of narcotics or alcohol. And even when I was sober, I was waking up in random places, in random parks and random side streets. And I was wondering, why is this happening? But due to the memory erasure techniques of British intelligence, I wasn't fully able to contemplate what was going on. I'm only now, at the age of 35, beginning to realize exactly what went on over the years. And this is basically the crux of it. I was and continue to be a test subject of British intelligence mind control experimentation. And indeed, the psychotronic beaming is merely a continuation of that experimentation. Indeed, I believe that the psychotronic beaming is in fact a punishment by the Freemasons of the British Intelligence Services for being so vocal about their nefarious agenda. Indeed, it's all basically linking up. For me, it's very interesting. And my detractors and various psychiatrists would say that I am making up all of these stories and concepts because I can't deal with my own mental illness. Indeed, this isn't the case. This psychotronic targeting is absolutely destroying me. But I'm remaining, I believe, quite stable. And why on earth would I come up with such an elaborate narrative? Also, I can explain this narrative. And many psychiatrists, due to their intelligence connections, are actually aware of the fact that I am a MINDGATE program test subject and a former mind-controlled operative who basically burned the British intelligence services. I effectively went native in Serbia, although I didn't fully learn the language. I went native, as it goes in espionage speak, and burned British intelligence intentions regarding me. Indeed, I believe I was meant to be human intelligence gathering, HUMINT, in Serbia, but I realized that I absolutely adored the Serbian street drunks and street junkies that I was interacting with, and therefore I had absolutely no interest in British intelligence's plans for me. Also, I was kind of slightly aware at the time of what had occurred at Grenville Lodge, despite the attempts of memory erasure by the British intelligence services on me. I was semi-aware at the time. Indeed, however, by 2015, I'd basically been erased so much that I'd forgotten much of the Freemasons' intrigue surrounding me. And due to a Masonic joke whereby I was programmed with Nazi fetishism, I went in the wrong direction and started blaming the Hebrews for basically everything that had happened to me and being engaged in a global conspiracy, which is very interesting screen memory framing that the British intelligence services are notorious for. So once you figure things out, they basically screen the conspiracy whereby you blame the Hebrews for everything when the actual fault is with the Masonic networks of British intelligence, interconnecting with the German Templar orders and Thulists of the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst, as I've explained in many of my previous videos. Indeed, it's all a rather interesting scenario. I also believe that Russian intelligence tapped into my programming several times, and so effectively at several times in my life I was a double agent. So originally a British intelligence operative, but working for the Russian intelligence services in some capacity, though this may have just been a continuation of the experimentation whereby I'd basically been transferred from the MINDGATE program of the British intelligence services into the Project Sturm mind control program of the Russian intelligence services. So I do not know what networks of Russian intelligence were utilizing me. Indeed, I believe various factions may have done, including factions connected to the British Masonic lodges and also other factions. Indeed, I remember a Professor Grigorenko, and I can envision the man in my head. And I was connected to a couple of GRU officers, codenamed Sergei Borodin and Dmitry Polinkov. These are most probably not their real names. Indeed, all the agents I've met in my life have not revealed their real names to me, knowing that I am a loose cannon with a very big mouth. So it's interesting. Indeed, my intelligence value could potentially be minimal because I'm not one for secrecy in terms of keeping the cryptocracy's secrets to myself. Indeed, I like to talk to people, and also I believe I never signed the Official Secrets Act, so I was technically a deniable asset for the British intelligence services, just as I was a deniable asset in later years for the Russian intelligence services. Indeed, as I've stated, the intelligence world is very factional. Indeed, for instance, during the JFK assassination, there were networks of hardcore Cold War fanatics who were involved from Russian intelligence who were involved in the assassination of JFK because they wished to perpetuate the Cold War. But there were also elements of Soviet intelligence that were trying to stop the assassination of JFK. Indeed, Richard Nagel stated that he was potentially hired to murder Oswald before he caused any embarrassment to the Soviet Union. Indeed, there were factions of Soviet intelligence trying to stop the assassination of JFK, just as there were factions of Soviet intelligence involved in the overall grand scheme. These networks connected up to the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst networks that seem to have been responsible for the hit. Indeed, there was a Ukrainian connection also through the networks of Yaroslav Stetsko, who seem to have been heavily involved in the JFK assassination. Indeed, the hitman may have even been a Ukrainian banderist, but there are also theories that the hitman was a French organization Army Secrete hitman, but it could have been both. Indeed, it seems there was at least three to five shooters in the JFK assassination, so it was a network of Gladio operatives. Indeed, it was a Gladio operation, and it was overseen at the top by Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst networks. Indeed, as I stated, there were certain Soviet networks involved, but these were networks that had some sort of connection with the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst and potentially the British Masonic lodges. Just as I've stated that there were factions of Soviet intelligence that were attempting to curtail the operations of Oswald and attempt to make sure the assassination didn't happen in some way so that nothing could lead back to the Soviet Union and the Soviet Union couldn't get blamed. Indeed, it's interesting regarding operations that occur in the United Kingdom. Indeed, Russian intelligence are often paranoid about certain people causing some sort of scenario that would be blamed on the Russian Federation by the British state. Indeed, it's an impossibility that the Sergei Skripal attempted assassination was the Russians. Indeed, it was a British operation. And yeah, the death of Dawn Sturgis in Amesbury was caused by a combination of narcotics, and therefore she had a cardiac arrest. But this was blamed on the Russians by the British intelligence services as well, and the British population kind of just accepted the British intelligence's narrative on everything, when the Russians would have been too cautious in that regard. Also, their operations are a bit more slick than this rather bungled British intelligence false flag. Indeed, I don't think that the Russian intelligence networks would have left such an easy trail to lead back to themselves. So it's all rather fishy. Indeed. Now we've got to 19 minutes 20 seconds. The beams are already beginning to increase, and it's interesting that the beams really began to increase when I started speaking about the Salisbury poisonings, which I have theorized in other videos were a British intelligence operation. Indeed, it doesn't take much to put two and two together, and the fact that the biggest biochemical weapons research facility, Porton Down, is just down the road from Salisbury, and they create those kind of substances there. Indeed, it was probably a test of a new substance, and it's also most probable that Sergei Skripal's ultimate loyalties lay with the GRU, and British intelligence could not stand this fact that he'd deceived them basically, and so decided to take him out. Indeed, the Russians were planning an exfiltration of Sergei Skripal, and the Russians that were being tracked by British intelligence around Salisbury, who were tracked everywhere but the assassination scene, were decoys to keep British intelligence off the trail, while another group were due to exfiltrate Sergei Skripal. However, British intelligence, utilizing their Novichok poison, got there first and attempted an assassination on Sergei Skripal. Indeed, he is most probably living as a prisoner in a MI5 or MI6 black site now somewhere in Britain, probably somewhere in the countryside in an underground chamber. British intelligence have advertised the fact that the Skripals are now in New Zealand, but if he was in that much danger from the Russians, why would they advertise the fact that he's in New Zealand? So that none of that makes sense at all. Indeed, the beams are beginning to sort of send me a bit haywire now. So I believe I'm going to leave it there.